Justin sucks balls.
I feel like fart joke is better.
Actually, dingleberries. He really enjoys dingleberries.
Ew. The mental thought of sucking
gross.
a dingleberry.
This is Twin Stick Radio, episode 62 for the week of March 29th, 2019. I'm one of your hosts, Trey Higgins, and I'm joined by Chris Rodriguez.
Hello.
And Justin D. Lopez.
What's up?
Not much. How's it going?
It's good.
Good.
Saw the Spurs yesterday. That was cool.
How was that?
It was very fun.
I don't like sports.
Fun is relative.
I don't
extremely
like sports.
relative.
If you like sports, it was fun.
I don't like sports. But I have loved every time I've gone to a Spurs game. They also do hockey games there, and then the female basketball team. Every time I go to watch basketball there or hockey there, I have a really good time.
Yeah, I liked it. It was a really good game. It was close, so that made it, and they won in the end, so that made it even more exciting. Mm-hmm. And then after the game was Manu Ginobili's like jersey retirement. They have all their retired Spurs have their numbers and their jerseys put up basically in the rafters. And so it was like a big ceremony and pop, Tony Parker, Tim Duncan. Lots of people were just like paying respects to Manu Ginobili.
Did he die?
So really cool. No.
Oh, he should have died.
Speaking of Tony Parker,
would have made it more.
Someone
memorable.
comes out, stabs him with a lightsaber.
No, not now. I'm just saying.
Speaking of Tony Parker, one of the weirdest things I saw this weekend.
Who the fuck is Tony Parker?
I don't know what he does. I know he's a Spurs, but I know Tony Parker.
He's a Spurs. He was a he did play for the Spurs.
I know Tony Parker because Tony Parker was married to Eva Longoria, who was on Desperate Housewives, one of my favorite shows as a young teenager.
He also cheated on her, if I remember correctly.
That's not the important part.
Way to bring it down, Justin.
The important part of all this is that Eva Longoria is playing Dora the Explorer's mom in a live-action movie where Dora's it's like a teenage Tomb Raider. It's really fucking weird. They released a trailer on Sunday.
It has like a weird Uncharted feel to it.
It feels like
with like a Dora skin.
It feels like adults, because like there's one moment where she like Dora the Explorer is in a box and she's like looking through the box and she sees like some guards and she's like, "There's guards out there," and she pulls out like a big knife. But then there's like a moment where she's acting like a fucking 4-year-old when she sees Diego.
Yeah,
it was very odd.
Who's Diego?
He is like an animal kid.
An animal kid?
Which is his cousin, but he's like really into animals.
He talks to animals. He's not like just a weirdo about animals. But I mean, I guess talking to animals is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Are they going to be talking animals in the movie?
Well, apparently
Danny Trejo
plays
Boots the monkey.
Boots. Yeah.
Who's Boots?
He's a monkey. He's Dora's best friend.
Dora's sidekick.
He wears boots.
And he's a monkey.
But they didn't have Danny Trejo's voice in there.
I feel like you need to be real high when you watch this movie.
Either real high or a child, but there's not a lot of in between.
Well, but that's the weirdest thing about that movie is like even kids that grew up on that show like weren't asking for this.
I don't think anyone was asking for it. It was weird because they announced Danny Trejo was the voice of Boots, and then like the next day there was like, and here's a trailer. It's like, when was this even being worked on?
Yeah.
Well, really, I mean, who's your main audience?
Probably no one, honestly.
I don't know.
Well, so like, who's your main audience?
More than
I would
kids.
assume their main audience is kids,
right.
And then they're going to be like, "Hey, who the fuck is Danny Trejo?" It's like, "Oh, you should go look at his work because it's all violent and killing, and there's tons of things and cuss words and Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez and just tons of that." It's like, you guys totally should go look him up.
I hope it's like
if you're a child, go look up Danny Trejo.
I hope it's like a 2018 Jumanji situation where like everyone's like, this movie's not going to be good, and then it is good.
I don't think so, but I've been wrong before.
I mean, I don't think so either, but I hope so. Hey guys, we're a podcast about video games. We record every week, and we're up on Fridays, probably Saturday for this one because we had to delay recording this week. And we're going to start the show with the news of the week. You guys ready for the news?
News.
Nope. First up, we have all of our Gearbox news from the PAX East media briefing.
What a clusterfuck that was.
Yeah, we'll go through like the first set of the stuff, and you guys can stop me if you're interested. But I'm just going to go until we get to the bigger stuff. We Happy Few is receiving new DLC on April the 4th.
Did you ever play that? I know you wanted to.
I never did because it has like those survival like aspects of like feeding yourself, and that doesn't interest me unless it's done really well. And
which usually they're not.
Yeah,
Usually it's just annoying.
Red Dead is the only game where it wasn't annoying for that
Even
stuff
then,
to
it
be
was
a thing.
fucking annoying because it's like you couldn't
little
keep your
annoying.
weight up for the life of you.
Well, and I was never paying attention to that, so that wasn't a
I
big deal.
was.
It was basically
Like slightly underweight was the way to go. Like,
Sure, but then they don't tell you.
when you're malnourished.
Yeah, well, no, they don't tell you when you finally get sick. Spoilers for fucking Red Dead. When you finally get sick, that there's no way to get your weight back up.
Oh,
so you're just fucking downing beans, like just fucking beans, and your weight never goes back up.
Yeah.
But they don't tell you that you can't get your weight up. You're just gonna look like a fucking sick man.
Yep. Chris, this is the most exciting news on here, I think, for you.
Probably is it the board game?
Bulletstorm is receiving a port to the Nintendo Switch in the summer.
Everything received. Put it on Switch.
Port.
Hey, remember
Port,
that
port,
game
port.
9 years ago? Put it on Switch.
Gearbox is now the publisher of Rick and Morty's Justin Roiland's new game, Trevor Saves the Universe, which is set to release in May. Also a VR game.
Dude, that's a weird fucking game.
I know.
Like
It's so
that trailer was just like, I don't know, man. That's just a weird fucking game.
straight up Justin
Is Rick and
Roiland
Morty
in there.
that weird? Because I've been
No.
told I'm gonna like Rick and Morty.
It has
if
its-
it's anything like that, I'm not gonna like it.
It has its moments where it's weird, but I would say
okay.
most of the time it's sort of like nihilistic logic.
Man, that trailer's fucking weird.
I think that's fair.
DLC for Borderlands 2 VR will be released this summer, and the Handsome Collection will receive a UHD update on April 3rd for free.
All free,
All free. Is the
right?
DLCs free?
I
on
think the
Borderlands
DLC is also announced as free for
I didn't
VR.
see any pricing attached to it. Oddly enough, it was really hard to find like a news roundup of all this shit. And aside from like the big news, everything else was kind of buried on a bunch of the bigger sites.
Interesting. Yeah, I think
So-
all the deal. I could be wrong about this, but April the 3rd, it's probably on here that we're getting a Borderlands Game of the Year. Borderlands 1 Game of the Year.
I don't think it has a
HD.
release date yet.
I thought they said April the 3rd.
I didn't see a release date.
And I thought that was free too. I could be completely wrong.
So we'll get to that.
Okay.
You're partially right.
Okay.
Borderlands 2 is getting a new card game known as Tiny Tina's Robot Tea Party, which is available for purchase on the showroom floor at PAX East.
Looks super rad, dude. I was telling Trey, it looks like a Borderlands version of Uno. So you basically get I think it's up to 5 players, and each player gets a piece of claptrap. You get the main body of a claptrap, and then you get dealt cards, and you're trying to build and finish your claptrap. But as it goes around the table, people can put down a card that says destroy an arm, or I get to take your arm, or flip flop everything, and it looks really cool. It looks like a really cool version of Uno, but with Borderlands stuff.
Oh, that's cool. I looked it up. Yeah.
It is coming out on April 3rd.
The Game of the Year remaster thing? Okay.
Yeah.
for PC too.
Gearbox has announced that the original Borderlands will be coming to the modern consoles through Borderlands Game of the Year. The remaster will include 4K graphics with HDR and split-screen co-op. The game will also feature a few quality-of-life improvements, including a mini-map, the ability to lock items and mark them as junk, and automatic loot pickup. It will also feature some new and updated content, such as new legendary weapons, cosmetic heads, and an update to the final boss, making it more engaging, challenging, and rewarding. Borderlands Game of the Year will launch at $29.99 on PS4 and Xbox One. PC players can buy the game for $19.99 or receive the new edition for free if they already own it on Steam.
Pretty good.
Yeah, Chris and I were talking at Whataburger, and he sort of brought up the fact that like this isn't really something that that I think either of us really want.
Well, it's because Borderlands 1 isn't that great of a game.
No, it's
Maybe
not.
these improvements are going to make it better.
I don't think so because
I think the 4-player co-op would make Borderlands 1 extremely more enjoyable.
I just think that like the biggest problem for me with Borderlands 1 is that the guns don't feel very good.
Sure.
And the fact that things are sort of locked behind a skill. Like if you start the game out playing as Mordecai, I think all you can equip are like pistols and snipers, and you have
Sure.
to unlock the other
Yeah,
weapons
yeah,
that you get. It's a game that like as much as we talk about looter shooters not leaning into the RPG aspects too much, I feel like Borderlands leans too hard into the RPG.
The first one.
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
Borderlands 1 leans too hard into the RPG aspects and doesn't focus enough on like how it should feel to shoot a gun.
Sure. Yeah. Also, I think this is all in retrospective, but the player classes in Borderlands 1 are nowhere near as fun as they are in either of the 2 that have come out since then. 2 and the pre-sequel.
I think that's 100% correct and fair. Like I like Mordecai. He's probably my favorite Vault Hunter. Actually, Zero is my favorite, but I like Mordecai a lot. But even playing Mordecai was not like it was not as fun as playing Zero or any of the other heroes of Borderlands 2.
Sure. And it's super interesting that those main characters, Brick, Mordecai, Roland, when Roland died, didn't he?
Roland died in 2.
And Lilith, those are the main, like most of the stories in Borderlands are built around those characters, which is really weird.
They're like the leaders of the resistance.
Yeah, and they're the least interesting out of all the Vault Hunters that have ever come out. It's just crazy.
Well, to be fair, like I think part of the benefit I think part of that was I think they were able to do that because they insist on not having the characters really have many voice lines or like interact with the story themselves. So I think we might see that in Borderlands 3.
Which I'm hoping for. I would like to see Zero not as a player character because he's badass.
Well, like the Siren from Borderlands 2. Maya. She was in that trailer a lot.
And she looks cool as shit.
She looks fucking awesome.
Yeah. The only one I didn't see are Axton. I didn't see Axton at all. Zero was in the scene where they showed Reese.
Okay.
Reese was doing something and Zero standing right next to him. The only ones I didn't see were Axton, Gage, and Krieg. Which Gage and Krieg are the two downloadable ones.
Yeah, okay, cool.
The Psycho and the little kid with the robot.
Yeah.
But
speaking of, did you have anything to say about Borderlands Game of the Year? Okay. Speaking of Borderlands 3, at the end of the PAX East 2019 briefing, Gearbox finally announced Borderlands 3 with a trailer. The trailer shows off the new Vault Hunters, new villains, and some characters from previous installments in the game. The trailer confirmed that Borderlands 3 will feature 1 billion guns and even showcased a walking gun. Though further details, including the game's release date, have yet to be shared to the public, Randy Pitchford did confirm that more details will be released on April 3rd. I was telling this to Chris too. The thing about like watching that trailer was that as in terms of like a sequel that we've been waiting 7 years for, I wasn't too blown away by the graphics, which sounds really negative. It sounds like I'm saying something awful, but the reality is that I think that part of that art style lends itself to sort of like a timelessness where you don't need like an Uncharted 4 jump from Uncharted 3 in order to prove that it's a next gen title.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, even watching the trailer, it was like, this looks pretty much, I mean, we played Borderlands 2, I mean, not too long ago.
Yeah, no.
It was like, it didn't look crazy different.
No, I highly disagree with that.
Really?
From a character model, I think I would agree, but there's not a lot you can do with cell shaded graphics, like you said, right? There's just not a ton you can do with that. But if you go back and watch that trailer and look at the environments of Borderlands 3 compared to the environments of Borderlands 2, it's like night and fucking day.
Well, sorry.
Yeah, it's insane because, like Justin said, we just got done playing Borderlands 2 maybe a few months ago, and even that whole opening thing when you're in the snow, there's nothing. Like, it's just a vast snowy wasteland desert, and there's nothing happening. There's no particle effects, there's no snow or wind blowing, or the clouds aren't even moving. The skybox looks terrible, but it's like I said, if you go back and watch that trailer, those environments when they're kind of panning across environments, man, it just looks so much better than it did in the second game.
That's true. I can see that. Yeah, I didn't really think about too much the environment, but yeah.
Well, and you brought that up to me at lunch too, and I kind of said that like there's that sort of I called it a nostalgia filter at lunch, but I think it's more of a thing of like when you play a game as it releases, you don't have a bar for what could look better.
Sure.
So I think that part of my issue was with the environments is that I didn't notice them too much because the environments looked the way that I remember them looking in Borderlands 2, 3, and the pre-sequel.
Yeah, I did. I called them rose-colored glasses, and you're right. They're not rose-colored glasses, just the way you remember the game.
Yeah.
And like I have nothing but fond memories of Borderlands 2. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Nothing but. I've never had a negative experience in Borderlands ever.
It's definitely, like, if I were to make a top 20 list, it'd be somewhere on that list.
Easily. But yeah, and I'm really super looking forward to the Vault Hunters. You and I had talked about these leaks 5 months ago, maybe longer. They turned out to be real, which is great because I love the new designs of the Vault Hunters.
I like that guy.
Were they all real? Because there was a There was a leaked like Beastmaster, right?
Yeah, he's there.
I don't
it's
think
that robot thing.
I don't think they show him using his abilities, but that was
Okay.
like when he had sent us the pictures from the leak. He was one of them. Like that character. model
okay.
was
Maybe I
one of
didn't
them.
see the pictures.
And they show him. There's a couple of quick things in the trailer where it shows him telling like a skag to go.
Okay,
you see him
yes.
point, and the skag runs past him.
I did see that.
Yeah,
I
there's
didn't know
that.
I didn't know if that was him or not.
Yeah,
but
that's gonna that'll be the dude I pick because he
I
looks
think that's
fucking
probably
cool as shit.
It's probably who I'm picking too.
Really, I thought
Yeah.
you were gonna go with the assassin with the clone, the old looking dude.
Oh, I think part of it is looking at the trailer. The one that I like the look of the best is the Beastmaster.
Sure, yeah.
I guess it just does depend on the abilities, but also I did like him because
Yeah.
I thought it was cool.
He looks like a white hammerlock, like super like prim and proper.
I
think
thought
he
it-
looks cool as shit.
I thought that there were like two cool things that I noticed was A, like taking the game and making 2 female protagonists out of the 4 base protagonists.
Good shit.
I think that's kind of risky because not in a bad way. I think that like no, I don't think anyone's going to care. I don't think that
Sure.
this is going to change the way that people view the game, but as Gearbox, there's a reason why in the previous games, out of the 4 main protagonists, 3 of them have been male each time. And it's because they're making their game for a mostly male audience.
Zero, we don't know.
I'm pretty confident Zero's a dude. Actually, he might be a robot, so that would make
Yeah,
him
that's
gay.
what I mean. Like we're not sure what Zero is.
but-
Zero is.
So I thought it was cool that they had 2 female protagonists because I think that shows that like, hey, we don't really care. These are the characters we want to make, and we're going to do it. The other thing that I thought was cool is that one of the male protagonists is an older dude, and you really don't see that a lot in games unless you're playing like God of War or like Gears of War 4.
Sure, like I I would say, man, I don't like using this word because it's skewed so many times, but like I think this cast is fairly diverse as far as race and gender goes because you've got the Siren, who's this just giant, massing, freaking like beast of a chick, and like freaking she just looks like a really strong freaking character.
Right.
The soldier, whatever she does, she's like super tiny. She looked like about the size of Tiny Tina, and she's got this giant mech that she runs around with, which is super cool. Looked white, couldn't tell. Beastmaster, I have no fucking clue, and then the white guy.
Yeah.
But then you got the 2 antagonists who look like brother and sister, who
Yeah.
look like they're not white. Well, let's just put it that way. I have no idea what race they're from
Yeah.
because it's fucking Borderlands. I don't think race exists in fantasy universes like that. I could be completely wrong, but
What color are they shaded?
yeah,
you know?
like yeah, exactly. They're shaded a darker skin color, so I'm assuming they're not white, which is good. It's good that that they're making a cast that's so diverse. But it's also nice to see like Lilith back and
It's
freaking
also
Brick and
really fucking cool to see the protagonist from Tales from the Borderlands. in
yeah,
that trailer.
Reese is in there.
I'm so fucking excited about that because I really think that like the fact that we'll never, at least in the incarnation that we had it before, get a sequel to that
Yep.
game. It's cool to see Gearbox still embracing those characters because they're awesome.
The teaser trailer that dropped Wednesday where they did like
It was like the statues, but
yeah,
it was like in the mask.
what Black Flag did that? Did you guys ever watch Black Flag on Stars?
No.
As a pirate show. Such a good fucking show. But they did that. The whole intro scene was zoom in of a bunch of different things, and as you pan around, and it's finally come out as this giant statue of really cool artistic pirate ship.
It reminded me of like a 3D version of like that first teaser for Skyrim where it's going
Yeah,
across
sure,
the
yeah.
wall.
Yeah,
And you
I-
see like all the different scenes of
Yeah,
them like fighting.
I really
dragons and
I
shit.
really liked it. But in there, they showed a bunch of different characters. Vaughn. A lot of people think Vaughn is in that statue, which is I guess he was the antagonist of Tales from Borderlands.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he
I really think Handsome Jack turns out
yeah,
to be
no,
the
yeah, you're right,
antagonist
you're
in
right,
Tales
you're
from
right.
the
But Vaughn
Borderlands.
was in there.
Yeah.
They showed a bunch of different characters. It's just nice to see, like,
There was
hopefully.
a flash of Handsome Jack's mask.
Yeah, but Randy Pitchford confirmed Handsome Jack is dead.
Randy Pitchford says a lot of stuff. I can't
I was
remember.
gonna say you can take his like word with like a grain of salt.
It's been a while, but one of the major plot. I can't remember how it ends for the life of me, and I've been meaning to look it up, but I forgot. But one of the plot points in Tales from the Borderlands Borderlands is that Jack is sort of like has manifested himself in Reese's head.
Sure. Well, and so that's what I hope happens is that maybe Handsome Jack is dead, but his influence is completely fucking with the Borderlands world. Because that's
what he would do.
It's Handsome Jack, man. You can't fucking kill somebody like that. Like flat out, just kill him and forget about him. You know what I mean?
He's also just one of the best villains in video games.
100% true. One of the best villains. Period.
Yeah.
I'm very much looking forward to this game.
I am too. I hope. It's really hard to say from looking at a trailer. Looking at the trailer, I was like, man, this looks like it's pretty far along.
Sure.
And it could be that we're getting it this year, but the fact that they keep attaching the word development every time they talk about this game as an adjective describing this game or as a precursor to them talking about anything, like even the trailer is called development trailer.
Sure. Yeah.
Sort of leads me to believe that like we might. I would say like at most it'll come out fall next year. Also,
before we move forward, like. We got Borderlands 2 in 2008? 2012. 2012 was before the advent of looter shooter games of service. And I'm really, really worried that Borderlands is going to maybe take like the Division, Destiny, and Anthem route where there is, I don't want to say like I don't mind paying extra for things because you have to pay extra for things in both Borderlands, all the expansions and stuff like that. I'm just worried that there's going to be. I don't really care about microtransactions much either. I'm just worried that Borderlands is going to take the games of service route a little too much. And get away from the whole Borderlands idea of what that game is. Does that make sense? Am I making sense at all?
In what way do you mean exactly?
I would hate to see a Eververse in Borderlands. Period. Okay. I think that would just be completely and utterly useless. A vanity store in Borderlands, don't even fucking do it. Like, wait, was there vanities? You unlocked all the skins in Borderlands 2, right? All the extra heads?
I'm pretty sure you unlocked them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you just unlocked them, and then you use shift codes to unlock other ones.
Well, you could do...
I don't think you bought any of them.
No, but there was that whole like lottery system, right, where you could like randomly get more
right,
cosmetics.
But you got them all in game.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
You didn't use real world.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Don't add a vanity store. Don't add a fucking Don't add a vanity store. Don't add what is like different skins, any sort of microtransaction store, which I'm afraid that's going to be. I don't mind microtransactions, but that's not Borderlands. Borderlands was always earning the things you wanted to earn.
I think it's.
And I don't want that. I don't want a Borderlands game to service. That's what I don't want.
I think it's hard to be like, oh, I agree with that concern. I don't really feel it though, because I don't know. It just doesn't seem like Gearbox's MO. Like Gearbox has issues, and a lot of those issues revolve around the fact that like they try to be a publisher and a developer, and they really only have one IP that's worth developing that they've just held off on for a really long time.
Sure, maybe.
And nothing else is really picked up like that IP.
But look at Battleborn.
But I don't think that Battleborn was really like littered with microtransactions.
It wasn't littered, but you could all the extra things that you normally would have unlocked in a Gearbox game, you bought.
Is that true? I don't remember
like extra skins and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure you could buy all that shit in Battleborn.
I don't remember that being a thing. It might have been, and maybe that's something I'm missing. But I think that like the way that you make money in a Gearbox game is sort of the way that you make money in a Bethesda game.
Sure.
That, like the idea is that you release this thing as a platform. You add a bunch of expansions to it for a year or two, and then from there you're basically reselling it as many times as you can.
Sure, but
and I feel like that business model has been really successful for them, and I think that especially since a huge portion of their audience are people that play on PC, I think if I was Randy Pitchford and I was Gearbox, I would be very afraid to piss those people off by trying to do these things that primarily console developers have gotten away with. None of that is to say that we shouldn't be afraid of that, and none of that is to say that that definitely won't happen. But for me as Randy Pitchford, the business model I've had for the past 7 years and even longer than that with the way that we've released our games has worked. Let's keep doing it like this because we're raking in millions off of one IP.
It just seems so commonplace now, though.
Well, that's the thing is like if I'm Randy Pitchford, I'm going to try to make as much money as possible,
right.
And that's in microtransactions.
And like you said, like I mean, whenever Borderlands 2 came out, that wasn't really a thing.
It wasn't at all.
And now it is. So.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have the books for Bethesda and Gearbox in front of me compared to Ubisoft and Bungie. But to me, like, I don't know how anyone could argue you could argue that the Skyrim and Borderlands 2 models haven't worked.
But the biggest difference that's comparing apples to oranges when it comes to games. Borderlands is more akin to Destiny, Division, and Anthem than it is to Skyrim.
No, but that's the business models of the two games. The way that they have continued to make money past their release dates in 2011 and 2012 is different than what a lot of other developers are doing.
But I would assume, this is just assumptions, the books would tell you any game with microtransactions going to far exceed revenue for a game that just releases on 12 different consoles.
Maybe that's why I said I don't. That's why I had the preface of I don't have both of these books in front of me. But like I said, there's a reason why Bethesda's done it so many times. It has to be profitable.
Bethesda's also switching. Bethesda, you look at Fallout. Fallout came out with their whatever the creation suite or whatever the hell they call it, and it's all microtransactions that you can get different games in. And people use it, and that's why it's still there.
Isn't that for modded content though?
It is for modded content, but it's modders.
It's modders selling skins.
Yeah, modders being paid by Bethesda to let them put that stuff so normal players can buy these things. It's basically a microtransaction store.
Yeah,
especially because that stuff used to be free too, and they were just like, well, we can monetize this.
But at the end of the day, what you get in the base game is all achievable. Like Skyrim as a base product, you can get everything for free without having to buy it.
But again, imagine if Skyrim came out in 2018. I think it'd be very different than it did if it came, because it came out in 2011. But before
Fallout
the
4
microtransactions thing.
But Fallout 4 came out 3 or 4 years ago,
and that was the game that kicked off this creation suite.
Sure, but still, like I'm not saying, I'm definitely not disagreeing, but I think that like at the end of the day, the cosmetics that exist in Skyrim and Fallout 4 are significant enough that it doesn't affect doesn't affect my fun to not be able to purchase the store, unlike Division or Assassin's Creed.
Now, I say all that. I don't care about microtransactions. If there's something cool and I want to spend $5 on it, I'm going to spend $5 on it. I've already spent $15 in Division. Like it doesn't fucking bother me whatsoever.
It's your money. You can do it.
Yeah, it's my money. I have disposable income. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it. It's just, it would be weird to have it in Borderlands because the last iteration of it wasn't even present at all. Yeah. Again, though, I don't mind paying for extra stuff. Give me another Vault Hunter, I'll pay for it. Give me,
that's
expansions, I'll pay for it. Yeah, I'll pay for all of it. But man, in a Borderlands game, it'd be really tough if like, here's $5 for 5 golden keys. Ow, man. You know what I mean? Like golden keys used to just be handed out like confetti, but now they're charging for them.
See, I don't.
I really hope that doesn't happen.
I don't know that I have an issue with that as long as golden keys exist in a similar way that they do in Borderlands 2.
Well, that's what I mean. The golden keys are just handed out like fucking
but
candy.
Then they wouldn't be. But if they're going to make you buy them, then I feel like they would have to cut back on what you can get. I don't know if that's true though.
I mean,
I guess, yeah. I mean, people could pay for them for simplicity.
We were sitting here before the podcast started, and we were talking about, how I think the way that the industry has been run in the last probably 3 or 4 years has affected Justin and I's fun of video games. And I think that's not less true when we're talking about Gearbox or Borderlands. However, it's really hard for me, and maybe I just need to be ready to be disappointed, but it's really hard for me to look at Gearbox as a company who has established a business model that works so well with all 3 of their games and continue to profit off of those games, even, almost 10 years after they've been released, or in some cases more than 10 years after they've been released. It's hard for me to look at them and be like, you guys are going to break this model, because again, we share our hate of Gearbox and their business all the time on this podcast. But in terms of like a company that has handled itself mostly respectfully, I would say that Gearbox is probably up there. They have their things like Alien Colonial Marines, but really like there have been plenty of times throughout the years where they could have monetized the pre-sequel or Borderlands 2 or Borderlands 2 VR or Borderlands 1. They have the opportunity to do so in like 5 days, and yet they haven't done it yet. So it's hard for me to it's hard for me to be like, this is going to happen and it's going to ruin my fun, even though maybe I should be expecting it.
Yeah, I don't think they would change the pricing model of Borderlands now 7 years afterwards. That would just be idiotic. However,
What are you talking about pricing?
well, like you're saying, adding microtransactions to Borderlands 2,
like
like you're saying, in a few days they have the chance to do that. Like,
Shit.
sure they do, but that's a 10-year-old game. But
by that same logic, Modern Warfare 1.
But in 2016, microtransactions were added to Battleborn, taunts, skins, and like weapon skins, all added in Battleborn.
But going back to worst case scenario, fucking Activision did it with Modern Warfare 1 over a decade after it had been released. So it's
Sure.
not like it's never happened before.
Sure,
So
but that's also.
well, they also like
to be fair, though, and to your point, that's also Activision.
But wasn't that
exactly. But that's the same. I guess that's the
Yeah.
same argument I'm making about Gearbox now.
But wasn't that whenever they re-released the game though? Like wasn't?
And but
Yeah.
it's still the same principle.
Yeah,
Well,
sure,
I mean, yeah, sure.
sure.
It's a
It's just-
CD, and they added
Again-
loot boxes to it.
yeah,
Not
again,
only did they
that's-
charge you for the DLC again, they added loot boxes and other
Yeah.
cosmetics to the game.
fair.
Again, I say all this, and it's like, if I was Randy Pitchford, I'd be adding microtransactions to Borderlands 3.
Well,
I
and
would,
and that's the thing, like-
because it's profitable.
Right. Not only is it profitable, it's maybe it's bad, but like it's accepted. Like if they did that, I wouldn't think
Certain ones are
I wouldn't think
accepted.
it's bad on Gearbox.
Is it
you know?
accepted?
Certain
I think
ones
it
are
is.
accepted. Certain models are accepted.
I would say largely it's accepted. Some are better than
wouldn't say
others, but
largely. If it was largely accepted, Anthem wouldn't have got the hate a month before it came out.
I think if it was largely accepted in a paid game, mind you, I'm talking about paid versus free to play. If it was largely accepted in a paid game, then Black Ops Blackout wouldn't have its
Yep.
abysmal player count.
Yep.
true.
If it was accepted, people wouldn't rag on the Eververse, which is literally purely cosmetic and not gameplay affecting in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
This, where it is semi-accepted, I have yet to hear negative feedback about the Division microtransaction store. Reddit forums, like nobody's talking about it, but it's still really shitty because in Division 1, you could run around the city and get a purple jacket and then run around the city some more and find 9 different versions of that same jacket in a different color.
Well-
and now in Division 2, that's all behind a paywall, and it really sucks.
And I feel like if that's the way that Borderlands 3 is going to go, if that's how we end up and that's where we are, I don't know how, because I've already made my piece on this podcast about how the industry is affecting my play. I don't know that I have much more left in me of like nickel and diming me.
But again, it's not that big of a deal.
No, but like
it's just cosmetics.
But it's one of those things. It's not about the cosmetics. It's about the change from the way that we used to play games versus the way that we play them now.
It's the
like
principle.
It seems lame that I could jump into Division 2 and, you know, aside from the gear that you pick up, have a really good looking agent because I dropped $30 in one day, as opposed to you who's been playing nonstop since its launch.
Sure,
like,
but
like those cosmetic things that you're talking about that were in Division 1 versus Division 2 have now been restricted. And it's not about the individual game, it's not about the individual title, it's about the industry altogether. Like it used to be about what you earn from playing the game versus what your mom can buy you with her credit card.
But I guess that's just something I feel like now as games have more of an online presence, I feel like that was just bound to happen. Like that's just a modern day thing of like, if I'm going to school and I can afford really nice clothes.
No one's arguing about that. I'm not saying that that's not the case.
But I feel like that's why it's different.
I'm not saying that that's not the case. I'm just saying that like that doesn't change the fact that sucks.
Sure, but it's something that you just have to, like, it's one of those things you just have to learn to accept. Because 30 years ago, you could, minus inflation, 30 years ago, you could go to a burger place, order a burger, shake, fries, and everything, and they would, I mean, you didn't have to do shit. They would just, as soon as possible, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, right away, bring it to you. Can I get you anything else? Let me get you a refill. Hey, we have some extra fries. You want a fry? Blah, blah, all this other stuff. Now you go to Whataburger in 2019, and you wait in line for 20 minutes before you even get up there to order. And then it's like, well, now I'm, paying overpriced for it's the same thing. It's just something that as society or whatever you want to call it evolves, things change. And while I agree with you,
that's the
while
thing,
I
though,
100% agree with you, it's why I said earlier, it's like, yeah, you guys aren't playing a lot of video games right now because of your the way the industry is, it's skewing your view. Where me, I agree with everything you guys are saying 100%, but I'm not letting that skew the fact that I'm sitting down on my ass with a controller in my hand to have fun and play video games.
I'm not saying this to change the industry. I'm saying, like, my whole point is, and like, we can't do the thing where we're like, this would really suck if it's Borderlands 3, but now that we're talking about it in the industry, Trey's being over dramatic. Like, I feel like that's a complete 180 on two sides of the same opinion. I'm just saying that as a consumer and as someone who plays or who participates in a lot of different things in nerd culture, like, that would be that would just be another like thing that would be like, why am I playing games? Like that would affect my fun. I don't expect the industry to change because I have a thing or because I have this opinion.
Sure.
But that would stop me from playing video games.
Sure.
If this is the way that we're at, where a game like Borderlands 2, which still makes hand over fist in money and is constantly on sale you can buy everything for like $10 on any given week. But still they're making so much money that they're able to release it 16,000 times. If we're in an industry where that business model works, makes people money, but you're going to go the more money making route and and charge people for microtransactions for things that you previously could just earn in your games. A successful franchise that still makes money today, that's just another fucking straw on the camel's back. Like, I'm just going to stop playing games.
Sure.
Because like I think that
nobody's going to stop you from stop playing games.
I think that there should just be some places in video games where it's like, what you do works. You're making enough money. You don't need to make more.
But maybe they're not.
It's okay.
But maybe they're not. Like, what? I mean, that's the thing is, if you were in a position, it's like, could I make more money or could I even out and make the same money? Like, well, I'm going to choose more money no matter what. Even you, just in general, you, not a video game developer, you, Trey, if I gave you the opportunity to make more money,
but see,
or make less money, what are you going to choose?
But looking at Bethesda and Gearbox, the way that they made more money is they took all the money that they had made off of these successful franchises that were paying them millions years after they were released, and they got into publishing. Like, that's how Gearbox and Bethesda have evolved their model.
Sure.
I mean, Bethesda recently made Fallout 76, and so we can't forget that in this conversation.
Which is riddled with the microtransactions.
Exactly. But like, looking at those companies as they've existed in the last decade, like, Borderlands money is what turned Gearbox into a publisher.
Sure.
Again, it's what made them successful.
Again,
so there are other ways to make money besides nickel and diming.
100% agree with you. However, it's a change. It's a change that has been happening in the last 10 years in the video game industry, and it's not going anywhere.
Right.
And if that affects you playing video games, that really sucks.
Well, I hope it affects more people. Like, I really hope.
But it's not.
I don't know if that's true.
It's just not.
I don't know if that's true.
People complain and complain and complain about Division, Anthem, and Destiny, which are the three looter shooters that are riddled with microtransactions, but the player bases are still consistently in the hundreds of thousands of players.
Except you look at Destiny 2, that's capped off the majority of its audience with a $40 season pass, and how much has their player base dropped in the last 6 months?
Maybe 200,000 to 300,000.
That's not the numbers you were throwing around last week
Sure
or
it
the week
was.
before that.
Sure it was.
You literally talked about how millions of people have jumped off the game in the last 6 months.
No, I said at the height of Destiny there was 1.2 million players, and now in PvE, like I said the last time, we can go back and listen. It's 600,000.
600,000. So half of its player base.
Sure.
So that's a significant portion of your player base that you lost behind a fucking paywall.
But 600,000 people playing a video game is a lot.
Still, losing half your player base is not a good thing. Like, 600,000 people is a lot of people. 600,000 people is not a lot of people for a AAA game that you just sold a major expansion plus the season pass to 3 months ago, 4 months ago.
Sure, but that's still not affecting it.
6 months ago.
Destiny 3 is still coming out in whenever it comes out. Like, that's not going to stop it from coming out.
Well,
that's not going to stop the model. People are still going to play it because we've even admitted before, it's like no matter what they do, we're still going to play Destiny 3.
Except for the fact that Activision let them go. So obviously that model is working so well that they were willing to give up an IP.
Well, and that's what I meant earlier whenever I said that this kind of model is accepted, not necessarily by players like spending money on it. Like, sure, people do, but I meant more so accepted as like it happens and we continue to play video games. You know, I think that's what I meant more of whenever I said it was accepted.
That's just going to happen. You know, for every Trey that drops off of playing video games, 5 more people decide to go ahead and start.
Well, we have to remember too, like for every, not to use you as an example, but yes, for every Trey that stops playing video games because of this, we also have to remember that there are people growing up right now that are learning this is just how video
It's
games
just
are.
a normal thing, or
It's-
people,
Yeah, and
or
those people are playing on their fucking cell phones and tablets.
or people like me
True,
who
that's
just,
true.
or people
So-
like me who just accept it and do it and still pay money for it because I don't really have a huge problem with it.
Which
I
I would
said before-
say probably is the probably a majority.
Oh,
like people
I think
just
I think a huge majority of people are like me.
right.
I think the vocal minority are still. We've always said it before. The ones that are vocal on Reddit and forums are the minority when it comes to a lot of these things.
I think that it's true the majority of the players are like you, but I think the majority of the players aren't playing multiple games. Like, I think the majority of the people that are okay with just extremely money grabbing business practices are people that play one game, whether that be Madden or Apex
Call
or
of Duty
Fortnite
or whatever it is.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. That game becomes
Yeah.
their hobby.
Sure.
Which, guess what? Like you can have millions of players that exist, but if certain people are only playing one title, eventually things are going to start to not get included. Like eventually you're going to have a really good game like Division 2 that comes out that just doesn't have a big player base because you're not going to convince everyone else to leave Destiny 2 or Apex or Fortnite. And
Sure.
that game's going to fall apart and that studio is going to fall apart. And then you're going to see like major changes.
Sure, yeah, but that 600,000 people that are playing Destiny right now are also playing Anthem and Division and are going to play Borderlands. Like most of like the millions of players that are registered under Destiny, I think there's like 14 million registered Destiny players. They're all playing Apex.
Well, and
that's
I-
just because it's
but
free.
that's-
I mean, we have to remember too. Like Destiny 2 isn't a new game anymore. I mean,
no, it's
as much as we like,
2 years old, 3
right,
years
as much as we like to talk about how many people have dropped off playing from its peak, like it's somewhat of an old game now.
But that's a problem with games as service. Like sure, you can have 14 million registered players, but the way that you make money in a games of service is by having people playing your game all the time. So it doesn't matter how many people bought your game. If no one's playing your game after they've bought it, you're not making money, which is why you have a big studio like a big publisher like Activision letting Bungie and Destiny go because there's not money to be made there anymore because their player base shrinks every single day.
Yeah, they're making money though because people are still buying Eververse shit. They just are. Like Activision might not see Destiny as a success, but Bungie does, and that I think that's really all that matters.
I would hope they do because
Yeah.
they've gone through a lot of bullshit to keep that fucking.
I
IP.
would assume that's all that matters. I think Activision's just looking for the next Call of Duty, and I don't think they should have ever thought Destiny was going to be that.
right, I think I think they were expecting more of like a short, quick term like gain, if that makes
Oh
sense.
no,
Whereas,
they
like,
did. They signed a 10-year deal with Bungie that they let them go with.
I mean,
I just think they were expecting Destiny to be another Call of Duty, and it just the way that game is set up, it never was going to be.
I think
another Call of Duty.
I think it was another Call of Duty for a while. I think Destiny 1 was totally what Activision was looking for in a Bungie developed online MMOS game. I think the problem is that Destiny 2 came out and it immediately faced a shit ton of problems from its player base wanting more Destiny 1. And so you saw a significant portion of the player base jump off in that first year, and they never really recovered. I think they recovered for short term after Forsaken came out, but I think, again, they lost a majority of their player base, and every time a new fucking expansion comes out with their new season pass, you see more people fall off. So I think the biggest problem with Destiny and the biggest problem with a lot of these games, like Anthem, which that game has turned into a shit show in the last 2 weeks, more so than it already was 2 weeks ago. I think the biggest problem is that you have developers that are fighting gamer expectations.
Sure.
And whether or not you can predict that as a developer is completely besides the point.
Sure.
But if there is one game that's doing it really well, and you own 3 different games, you're going to be playing the one most of the time that does it well. Like, have you logged into Anthem and played a significant amount of time since Division 2 came out?
What do you mean by significant amount of time?
I would say so Division 2 came out 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
Let's say in the last 2 weeks, have you played 10 hours?
No, I'd say like 6 hours.
That's decent, but I think that's a problem, especially for you as a gamer, because you're the kind of gamer that the second that they put something in that store that you want, you're willing to shell over cash.
Sure.
And like you're the market that they want to keep,
Sure.
but they're not keeping you.
But
And neither is Destiny 2.
Sure.
did
but-
you spend money in Anthem?
Yeah, sure, but that's the thing, right? The microtransactions aren't the reason player base is dropping off of Destiny and Anthem. That's not why it's dropping. Gameplay is why those are dropping. The microtransactions have nothing to do with the player base dropping in those two games.
I
Like
think-
nothing whatsoever.
I think in the case of Destiny 2, it does, because it restricts the things that you can go after.
I wouldn't call that a microtransaction thing. I'd call that a fucking annual pass, which is a whole nother clusterfuck.
I would say
that's not
I think
microtransactions. That's DLC.
I think the Eververse store has something to do with it too, because I think that like as Destiny, what's one of the biggest problems in Destiny? The extremely small loot pool. If you're putting a bunch of your loot into a microtransaction store, that's less for your players to chase in the actual game.
Sure.
Which means that there is less for you to do as a player.
But again,
Right, which is probably, I mean, by design, that is to drive people to the Eververse.
sure.
Sure,
Again, though,
and I don't think
In,
it's working.
in theory.
all cosmetic though, which is also all
Sure, but it's still less for you to collect in the game.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. However, I don't think that's why Destiny's dropping
No,
off.
I think that's one of the reasons.
Yeah, Destiny, the main reason people are dropping off Anthem and Destiny is Anthem because there's literally no reason to play that game. Go into GM 2 and 3, there's no reason whatsoever because there's nothing to get. There's once you have like a build that you like or whatever, there's just nothing to do in Anthem. Destiny is because they're I don't know what they're doing. They're fucking centering an entire season around Gambit, and like, good Lord, man, what? That's a whole nother issue. But going back to this whole thing, microtransactions aren't the reason people are dropping off games, and I don't think microtransactions should be, my opinion. That's all. I don't think microtransactions should be a freaking camel back breaking issue. Like Anthem and like
Can I clarify real fast?
Well, no, I get it. A camel back breaking issue is Anthem.
Every
time they update that fucking game, they break something else.
No one's saying that. Like, I'm definitely not saying that microtransactions are the only thing. Like, it's not just about microtransactions.
Okay, I'm sorry. From what you said earlier, it's like if they add these things that I could or earn in game before, that's another straw to break the camel's back.
But it's not the. Go, like, look at Anthem. Look at Anthem and Destiny.
Also,
right?
I'm not talking about you.
I know. I want
to. You don't have to justify yourself because I'm not talking about you.
I just want to make my whole point clear. It's not. It's about the business models. It's about releasing broken games. It's about releasing.
Sure, 100%
tying
agree with that.
Microtransactions to progression, tying fucking season passes and expansions that cost $40 when you've already spent $40 on the game. Restricting your ability to play it.
Sure,
it's about.
But Borderlands
putting a broken game out there and not giving developers time to actually like put that time into it. And so for me, like, if you see these things start to invade Borderlands 3, I think that's just another example of like, this is an industry that these are commonplace things that are going to be accepted and not changed. And so why am I still playing games when this continues to affect my fun?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But like I said, I don't think, again, I don't think, where I agree with you, I don't think Gearbox is dumb enough to go the way of Destiny. Mm-hmm. They are dumb enough to go the way of Anthem and Division, because all these models are dumb. All of it. Right. If I pay $60 for a game, I should just be able to freaking get everything that's included in the game. That's the ideal model. However, I can't just go to Whataburger and be served like I'm a fucking king anymore. Right. That just doesn't happen.
Like we said, time and time again, $60 nowadays doesn't really cover the cost of a game.
It does not, and that's just something you have to accept it because it's not going to change. You know what I mean?
Or you can just stop playing games.
Right. Or you can just stop playing video games, which really sucks, dude. Like that is a shitty, in my opinion, that's a really shitty door to have to go through.
Yeah, but if you're not having fun, is it shitty? Like, if the way that games are being strangled by a broken AAA business model,
maybe
is
not.
it bad?
Maybe not. But if you're letting something as minuscule as that affect the fun of a game, then
I don't think that's minuscule.
I totally get it if that's Anthem. Anthem 100% is guilty of everything you're saying, but like Division, letting microtransactions affect you playing Division it's not. I don't want to use the word ridiculous, but it's not. It's so minuscule.
I don't think it's minuscule. I think it's if you have. And there's always going to be games that are out there that don't follow this business model, right? Like Divinity Original Sin's in here. Like, talk about a game that did not nickel and dime you at all. You paid fucking $40 or $50 for the game, got a great game, it's hundreds of hours long, had tons of shit to do in it. It's fucking good as it was, and they never tried to nickel and dime you
until now.
Until now.
Well, yeah, they're giving away shit, but you could also buy things.
Whatever. Then just another reason to be frustrated. But
but all this, not me. I'm sorry. I'm not frustrated by it.
But all this is just, I'm just saying in general that, like, we have a really just bloated industry, And the idea that we have to wait for games to be good, that we have to wait for developers to update them, that really there's maybe a handful of companies, and Nintendo is probably the only one that I can name off the top of my head right now, that are actually putting out full-fledged games that are worth playing and that you don't have to wait to get better.
Yeah, the only pushback for that though is there's only like maybe a handful of games that you're talking about that do that. Most games that come out don't do that. Destiny did, Anthem did. I'm really trying hard to rack my brain here to think of games that just
it's the games that like y'all typically play.
Yeah, sure. It's the games that we 100% typically play. But
it is your environment.
I spent $60 on Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Origins and got 100 hours out of both of them and was completely satisfied.
Sure.
You know, like all the Sony exclusives, Spider-Man, God of War, Days Gone, Last of Us, Uncharted, Gears of War on Xbox, Forza 4, all these games. Like,
well, I think it comes back. It kind of comes back to the conversation we've had before too about the difference between single player experiences and multiplayer experiences. You know, your single player experiences.
That's where I said Gears. That's where I said Gears of War, Forza,
Mm-hmm.
freaking even Call of Duty, man.
I mean,
the games that you're saying is like we have to wait for them to get. That's like a handful of games.
I don't think that's true. I mean, you got Destiny 2, Division, Sea of Thieves,
I wouldn't call
Minecraft.
I wouldn't call Division that,
you
especially
have Elder
Division
Scrolls
2.
Online. You have Overwatch, which was a fine game at launch, but let's be real, it's a much better game now than it was at launch. And really, I think for me personally as a gamer, it only held on to my attention for like a month.
Yeah, those are all
Diablo 2.
Like Justin said, those are all games as services. Diablo 3, not 2. Diablo 2 was fine.
Yeah, Diablo 3.
Yeah. Those are all games as services where it's a constant update. But those are, like I said, that's only a handful of games in the plethora of the video game industry.
It's not a handful anymore because that's where developers are leaning their development power at.
Some of them are, 100%.
Like really,
I agree with you.
Like Sony, sometimes Microsoft, but not. I mean, right now we don't know what Microsoft is working on. But like, let's be real: Crackdown 3 and Halo 5, two of their exclusives. Halo 5 has a great multiplayer, awesome multiplayer, has good level design, has the shittiest story out of every Halo. Crackdown 3 is a broken fucking mess.
If you took the Halo, I'm genuinely curious. If you took the Halo 5 story out of the ethos of Halo, would Halo 5 really be a shitty story?
Yes. Halo 5 is a shit story
compared to all the other Halo 5. I'm not saying don't compare it to Halo.
It's a shit story just in general.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I've never played Halo 5, so that's what I was wondering.
I think
it's not worth it, really.
From a level design aspect and a multiplayer aspect, I think it's fucking fantastic. I think level design, it's one of the best Halos. But I think when you think about Halo, and other Halo fans correct me if I'm wrong, but when you think about Halo, story is a good 50% of what you're looking for in those games.
Easily. Yeah.
So
for most Halo
it's like I did not.
So yeah, like there are the Sonys out there, and I guess I'd probably come back and play the Sony games as they come out. I mean, shit, I'm every day I'm given another reason to not doubt Days Gone so much. But a lot of developers and a lot of fucking attention is being put out there to making games as services. Like, look at Battlefront 2, right? Battlefront 2 launched over a decade ago with a conquest mode in it. The best part about Battlefront 2, right? Just now, almost a year and a half after launch, they put a conquest mode in Battlefront 2. Like, talk about, problem with Battlefront 2 again is that it was rushed. That was a problem with Halo 5. That was a problem with Sea of Thieves. Like, you come back to all these games, and some of them are shitty business models. Some of them is just the fact that publishers aren't giving developers time to make their games. And that is just as big an issue as anything else.
Yeah, I think, but again, my biggest point in all of this is because number one, I don't want people to stop playing video games because of a model that they can't control. It's like what I always say: if you have no control over something, there's no reason to get mad at it. It's just none, because it's extra stress on your life that you don't need to deal with. And number two, for you in particular, I know how important video games are for you. And if you're going to let 2 games that we play stop you from playing video games, like that's, again, I don't like using this word, but it's ridiculous, because there is, again, in the ethos of video games, the 2 games that you play where or even Borderlands, let's put Borderlands into this. If those are going to break you from playing video games, you're going to miss out on Ori 2. You're going to miss out on all these indie games that you love to play, the new Undertale, whatever it's called. You're going to miss out on Days Gone and the Sony exclusives. You're going to miss out on all of these things because of 3 games.
I mean, my counter argument and just conclusion to my argument about all this is, first of all, I don't think it's just 2 games. I think it's a plethora of games, and I think I've played most of them or given most of them a chance. And
Sure,
been
but then
disappointed by
just
a lot of
don't.
them.
It's more so the trend.
Second point.
Yeah, but just don't play those.
My
then.
second point is that you talk about like a business model that we don't have control of, and this is why I would like people that feel the same way as me to stop playing games if it keeps being as bad as it is because the reality is that the only control that we have is with our wallets. And if there are enough people out there that are like, I'm sick of this business model, I'm sick of the way that these publishers run their business, and we stop paying money, things are going to change. This is how we got into this mess because of people that were complacent with the way that they spent their money. The way you get out of it is to stop spending money. Mm-hmm. And I think that the vast majority of gamers, as we see with every fucking video game boycott, are full of shit and would never commit to any of that.
Yep.
Right.
But I think that like, if you are someone that's out there that has been doing other things outside of playing video games and having more fun,
Sure.
now's a good time to drop off, and hopefully enough of us do it that it makes a difference. And if not, then guess what? You were spending your time doing something better, and then maybe one day you can come back to video games and feel better about yourself.
But do you want to rob like maybe rob is a bad word, but do you want to rob like an indie the guy who makes Undertale? Do you want to rob him from getting money because you've talked a bunch of people into not playing video games anymore? You know what I mean?
Maybe, but I don't.
I mean, of course. I mean, or it doesn't necessarily have to be you're not playing video games anymore. It's just being smart and wise. It's being smart and wise about the games that you do want to play.
Yeah, don't buy into the Destiny. Don't buy into the Borderlands. Don't buy into the Division. Don't buy into Anthem. Don't buy into the games of service.
Right.
But there's still guys out there that are working their asses off in their mom's basement making games like Undertale, and like your idea is you're just robbing him of.
Well, I think
no, but sorry, this is a life motto that you've taught me. Like, this is me learning from Chris in the best way. If I'm doing something that I don't enjoy doing, then I should stop doing it.
100%.
And, like, whether it's hanging out with people, and yeah, sure, these people I might like them, and I might want to give them my attention, and I might enjoy some time I spend with them. But if I could take that time and apply it to something else that is 100% more rewarding, then that's something I'm going to do.
But another life,
and I can't care about all these other smaller developers because again, it's not like I'm losing something.
Sure, but
I'm gaining the time to do something else I like more.
Sure, but another life lesson with Chris is know your friends. And I know you, and I know how important video games are to you. And I'm totally behind whatever you want to do. But I know for a fact that if you literally cut video games out of the rest of your life from the time you're 27 to the time you're 80, that's not going to be a decision you're happy with.
Maybe. I mean, and I don't think there's ever going to be a time in my
80,
life
90, however old you're going to live to.
I don't think there's ever going to be a time in my I don't think there's ever going to be a time in my life where I'm not playing where video games are completely cut out of my life.
Sure.
I mean, shit, I'm still going to I intend on doing this for as long as I can and enjoy doing it.
Just play Nintendo games because they're always fucking good. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I can't spend time doing other things. And
of course not.
We can move on.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Or we just forget the news.
Let's
talk about Division.
Yeah. A 24-year-old security researcher has avoided jail time after hacking both Microsoft and Nintendo. According to The Verge, Zamis Clark was arrested in June 2017 after Microsoft's cyber team, the FBI, Europol, and the NCA's National Cyber Crime Unit participated in a joint effort to track the man down. He was found to have gained access to Microsoft's server in January 2017 and shared his access with members of an IRC chat room. After he was released on bail with no restrictions to computer or internet usage, Clark hacked into Nintendo's internal network in March of 2018 and gained access through VPNs to Nintendo servers that store code for unreleased games. Clark stole thousands of usernames and passwords, but was discovered in May 2018. He pleaded guilty to charges on March 28th, and he's estimated to now be responsible for damages up to $1.8 million to Nintendo and $2 million to Microsoft. Clark was sentenced to 15 months jail time, but has had his jail time suspended for 18 months, meaning that as long as he doesn't reoffend, he could avoid jail time altogether.
Can we just talk about how cool Xanis is as a name?
Zamis.
Oh, Zamis.
Yeah, it's not.
That's way less cooler with the M. Replace the M with an N, and it would like Xanus. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Xanus. That'd be badass.
Imagine how cool video games would be if you go to jail for a while and then come out of jail. The games could be totally different now. That's the solution.
Imagine how stupid someone has to be to get arrested for something and then immediately do it on bail. That's the funniest thing
about this.
That happens
more often than...
Yeah, but like,
actually.
there's a difference between robbing a drugstore and like being a security research person. I feel like there's a level of intelligence that
think
is
it's-
like very different between the two people.
One
think
one
it's-
is an active active thought for sure.
I used to think it was intelligence, but I honestly believe anymore that like people that commit crimes, it's for the endorphin rush that you get. It's the same thing like a lot of people when they drink chocolate. I guess you can drink chocolate. When you eat a piece of chocolate, that endorphin rush that happens when for certain people.
I guess it's like an adrenaline.
It's an
true,
adrenaline shot.
thing.
So yeah, it's like it's one of those things. It's like some people like I mean they're fucking sex addicts, and you know I'm going with this is like it's sex after part all this other stuff, and at some point in time you contract an STD, but that's not going to stop you. No. You're still going
most
to
of
keep
them are
going
curable.
because you're looking for that endorphin rush. Video games, man, I play video games all the fucking time because that's my endorphin rush. You know what I mean? Play music, that's my endorphin rush.
Video game addiction. We have an episode on
Yeah,
it.
100%.
Go listen to that.
100%. I think it's kind of the same thing. It's like I used to be like, God, they're so fucking dumb. But it's like, I don't know, man. If I needed that that adrenaline shot and whatever gets you off, you're gonna do it.
I guess, man. CD Projekt. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you,
No, you're good.
CD Projekt Red has confirmed through a forum post that by 2021 they plan to have released 2 titles. One being Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, 2077.
Yeah,
I
2020.
put 2020. The other is a currently unannounced title.
That's gonna be the one that comes out first. Cyberpunk's not coming out before 2021.
I think so. I think Cyberpunk's coming out next year.
I don't know. Maybe.
Next
I hope
year,
so.
really?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm not looking forward to it like I was Witcher.
It's such a bummer.
I'm not because it's
that game
first
looks so
person,
fucking cool.
and that bothers the shit out of me.
Some of it's first person.
Most of it is first person until you get into a car and drive.
And even then, some of it.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to the first person thing, but I am looking forward to it. No, how do I say that? I'm not looking forward to the game. However, I'm interested.
Shit, at least they use your fucking protagonists in cutscenes and stuff. It's not like
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
Not, it's not like you're just
That's
constantly.
true. You
not
know
looking
me.
at your
You know me.
character.
That's my biggest. Like
just wanna see your character.
Like
Right.
Dishonored. You can kind of customize Kane. What's his name?
Shit.
What's the fucking Dishonored guy's name?
I thought it was.
Just go.
Kane.
It's not Kane.
Kane. That's wrong.
Corvo.
Corvo.
Thank you.
You can kind of customize Corvo. It's like, what the fuck is the point if I don't ever
Actually,
fucking
you,
see him?
You can't change his outfit at all.
Oh, I
don't
thought
see
you
it.
could change
Nope.
it.
You can't change
Oh.
it at all.
Well, there's some games out there where it's like
Yeah,
you can. Borderlands is a perfect fucking example. You can change the way your character looks, but why the fuck would you? Because you can't even fucking see him.
To look cool around everyone else.
Yeah, sure. I guess
So that
bothers
you
shit
can
out
tell
of me.
your Monster Hunter dude from
Yeah,
my
yeah,
Monster
good
Hunter.
call. Yeah, very good. Good call.
Sony has confirmed that it will stop providing retailers digital download codes for PlayStation 4 games starting April 1st, 2019.
Yeah, fuck you, retailers.
Talking to The Verge, a PlayStation spokesperson said, quote, "We can confirm that as of April 1st, 2019, Sony Interactive Entertainment will no longer offer full games through SIE's Global Digital at Retail program," end quote. This decision was made in order to continue to align key business globally. Oh, that's another quote. they
That's
said.
interesting.
To support full game and premium editions, SIE will introduce increased denominations at select retailers. DLC, add-ons, virtual currency, and season passes will still be available. Sony's decision means that anyone who doesn't want to use their credit card for purchase on PSN can do so, or can add games to their digital library by purchasing virtual currency from retailers and spending it on the PS Store rather than simply buying a digital.
That's
game code.
interesting.
I think that's so smart.
Sure, but it's just interesting.
Well,
Why is it smart? I don't get it.
because
It makes you buy a $60 card when you're only spending $59.99.
that
They're fucking you for a cent.
That, but also you can go to GameStop right now and you can buy a code for Dishonored 2, right? And that code will probably run you about $60. But if you go on the PlayStation Store right now, there's a good chance that Dishonored 2 is $19.99 on the actual store. So one of the problems that you run into at a physical retailer is that they're not updating the prices to match the prices in the store, which means that you probably have consumers that are buying from GameStop because that's where they buy shit
Sure.
to get more of their GameStop points, and then are going to the store, seeing the price, and then complaining to
Sure.
Sony
Also,
online.
Also, I don't know for a fact, but I would assume that if I bought Dishonored $59.99 at GameStop, GameStop's still taking a portion of that, even though it's a digital sale. I don't know.
Yeah, they are.
So that's a portion that instead of spending $59.99 at GameStop, you spend $59.99 on the PlayStation Store, and all extra revenue goes to PlayStation instead of GameStop PlayStation developer.
Also, aside from the fact that like a place like Walmart doesn't have really the ability to adjust the prices of their digital games all that much. A place like GameStop does it on purpose, because when you go up to the register and you're like, can I buy Dishonored 2 digitally? They're like, oh, it's $59.99, but you can get a pre-owned one for $9.99.
Yeah, that's true.
Guess what? Sony doesn't get a cut at all.
Yep.
So
It's pretty
Good
good.
point.
EA has announced that it will be laying off 350 employees as it makes changes to its marketing, publishing, and operations teams and prepares to ramp down its presence in Japan and Russia. Andrew Wilson, CEO of Electronic Arts, released a public statement explaining these, quote, important but very hard decisions, end quote, and that EA is, quote, doing everything we can to ensure we are looking after our people to help them through this period to find the next opportunity. This is our top priority.
Marketing and operations, you said?
Yep.
They're firing everybody that thought loot boxes was a good idea.
They're like, you keep fucking us.
Yeah, it sucks, man. I hope, like we always say, hope they land on their feet. I mean, that really sucks. But fucking, like you've said, this is a business thing, man. People get laid off and fired and all the fucking time in major corporations, and it really fucking sucks.
Right.
It really fucking sucks. It has to happen in the video game industry, but it's EA's a fucking giant conglomerate of a corporation, so it's got to happen.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I don't know off the top of my head how many people work at EA, but
I would assume a lot.
I would have to imagine that 350 sounds like a big number, but percentage-wise,
in the grand scheme of EA, yeah, I don't know.
probably not that much.
Also, we're on the verge of a console transition, which means that a lot of their teams are working on things that aren't coming out for quite some time. And also, you're probably cutting out a lot of fat to prepare for the next generation. And we'll see, like, towards the middle of the generation, they'll have thousands more employees. And by the end, they'll have let a lot of those people go.
Possibly.
It happens. It's the ebb and flow.
Yeah.
Of
And like I
the
said,
whole thing.
We have bleeding hearts in the video game industry, so that's why all these always make the news.
Right.
But in 1990, I guarantee you. Well, I mean, video games weren't as big as then, but I guarantee you this ebb and flow was happening in giant corporations in 1990 too.
Nintendo Power is like, they fired five employees.
Exactly.
This is the biggest number of people fired.
I'm sure this has happened throughout the 40
mass
years.
layoffs.
Yeah, throughout the 40 years video games have been around, this has happened, and it's just our
It's
society
now making news.
Well, our
yeah.
society, we have such a bleeding heart for shit anymore. This makes news.
Also, I'm just going to put it out there, not to bring up our old argument, but there is a problem in the video game industry right now. And it's why big developers like Activision and EA are cutting a lot of their people, because they have been focusing on making a particular business model that is becoming oversaturated. And so they have a lot of extra employees that are working on things that aren't viable for the future.
Sure,
Games and services.
they are viable, just not for everybody.
No, just not 1,000 of them coming out every year. That's
Sure.
the issue.
I agree, 100% agree.
Like,
Keep
you were-
three.
As
Keep the three. Anthem, Division, Destiny. That's all you need.
I can't remember who said this. It was someone talking about Anthem, but they're like, you shouldn't be trying to make the next Destiny, because Destiny players don't want another Destiny.
Sure.
They want something else, and you're never going to take them away from Destiny.
Sure.
Larian Studios and Danish developer Logic Artists have teamed up to create Divinity Fallen Heroes, a standalone title set in the Divinity Original 2 universe. Divinity Fallen 2 Heroes will feature two-player co-op as well as a single-player mode as you explore the farthest reaches of Revelion. I've never heard them say that. Rivellon, there we go. Aboard your very own flying battleship, the Lady Vengeance, which can harness the power of Source. The game seems slightly more strategic than previous titles, boasting over 30 different unit types, which you can equip with over 200 skills. You'll be managing an entire ship's crew, and as you'd expect from a Larian game, your decisions will have an impact on pretty much everything.
It's an RTS.
Your shipmates will abandon ship or have their hope restored based on your actions. The combat system has had an overhaul, and the game's environmental surfaces, oil, fire, ice, etc., will see addition of sulfurium, which will affect your character's position on the battlefield, as well as new locations like the arid desert of the Lizard Empire, the snowy regions of the Dwarven Kingdom. Gunpowder will be introduced into the series for the first time, letting you wield rifles and guns. Currently, no release date has been announced for the game, but it is expected to come to multiple platforms when it does launch.
Tell you what, the whole environmental effects in Divinity are badass, unless you're playing with three other people.
Yeah.
Then fire fucking sucks.
It's badass unless like half of your party, or actually 90% of your party is like, fuck poison, that hurts. Meanwhile, you're like, yes, poison, heal me.
Very true.
I think this is really cool. I think this is a really smart thing to do with a franchise like Divinity, is to give it to someone else, let them make an RTS.
Sure.
Support them as you can.
Sure.
And meanwhile, they're probably hard at work on Divinity 3.
You know who else did this? Bethesda and Obsidian. More people should do this.
They did.
More people, or BioWare and Obsidian as well.
Well, I mean, looking back at
more people should do this. Make a title and then hand it off to a sub developer and have them make your sequel.
But also,
and
like,
have a turnaround of 2 years.
Look at Fallout though. Fallout has its own RTS game that before Bethesda owned the Fallout franchise. Like these are things that have existed in these worlds for forever, and it's like, why not give someone the opportunity to go off and do something cool?
Find a really great freaking creative developer and let them run with your engine and your game.
Yeah.
More people should do that, man. Especially people like Bethesda who take 14 years to make a fucking game. It's like, make a mainline game.
Or a year in the case of Fallout 76.
Yeah, good call. Make a mainline game, hand it off to Obsidian or whoever, and let them make a sequel within 2 years. So you can take 4 to 6 years to make a game, and the drought's not there for Bethesda, for players.
And I don't understand either, because you have like a writing team, like, you know, you have this writing team that's on Mass Effect, right? Who, while Dragon Age was being developed, they were only working on Mass Effect. Why wouldn't you want to send those people to another studio, have them write more shit to be in your universe? Because like, I think the MCU, Star Wars, Star Trek, every franchise has proven time and time again that people like stories told in a specific universe. So grow that universe. Shit, there's a reason why Better Call Saul and a Breaking Bad movie exists, because people love that original show so much they want more stories in there.
I don't understand that one, but hey,
Better Call Saul is really, really good.
more power to people.
It's not as it's way better than it should be.
And it's also, I think it's stubbornness. I think, well, no, maybe it's not. I don't know. That's, you know why Star Trek is so fucking popular is because they have 9 different shows written by a bunch of different people, and you find the one that you really like, right?
Yeah.
I really like Deep Space Nine, but that doesn't mean Next Generation is good. You know what I mean?
No,
Stuff
but
like
those are the kind of stories that you like.
right, exactly. And so, like, I just don't understand. You're right. Like, I would love to see a Mass Effect developed by not BioWare.
Yeah.
I think it would be fucking great, man.
No, I mean it's like that like it's one of those things that I'm actually really loving about 5th edition D&D is the fact that they take the Forgotten Realms and they're like, okay, everyone, write your different stories.
Sure.
So you have a game like Dragon Heist,
But stop making classes like the Mistwalker. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
you have games like Dragon Heist, and then you have something like fucking the Storm King's Thunder. They offer you completely different experiences in the same universe.
Those are actual books, though. I was talking about like people making shit.
Oh, just people.
Well, there's that too,
people
but
need to
also,
calm
but
the
like
fuck down.
those are 2 different writing teams, right?
Yeah, no, you're right.
You have
Yes.
Chris Perkins being advised by Matt Mercer
Yeah.
versus, I don't know the guys who did Storm King.
But it's all using the same source material,
Yeah.
so it's like it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. I'm kind of excited about this, about Divinity.
Oh shit!
good.
Acquisitions Inc. is a thing. The Penny Arcade. They're getting a published book in the Forgotten Realms universe.
Is it an actual D&D book?
It's an actual D&D book.
Nice.
So
Pretty good.
this is Quick Saves. Amazon Prime members can claim 3 months of free access to Nintendo Switch Online through Twitch Prime. If the Twitch Prime membership is active for at least 60 days, members can extend their Nintendo Switch Online membership for another 9 months.
I already snagged my 3.
Now,
For the Switch, you play all the time.
I play it sometimes.
now, all they have to do is add in that Prime membership a way to talk to people without using your phone, and I'm in.
I mean, again, you don't play
Using Amazon Prime?
You don't play
I don't
Nintendo
care.
games for their online component.
Figure it out,
Yeah,
Amazon.
figure it out, Nintendo.
Speaking of Nintendo, Nintendo has released a limited resupply of the limited edition Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Switches to stores.
Gotta get rid of them before they start selling their new Switches.
They did get rid of them. I think they just printed some more. And they're like, here you go.
That's a choice.
Yeah.
They'll sell. I mean, they're going to sell out.
They look fine.
Nintendo's like, hey, we could use another 1 million in sales.
The controllers
Put
are
out the fucking
true.
Pikachu.
The controllers
one.
are cool. The dock's
Sure, yeah.
the dock's just ugly.
Yeah.
But you can switch out the dock. It's not a big deal. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 was announced during GDC 2019. The game is set to release in 2020 on PC and consoles. The team aims to explore the signature themes of the original game and keep with the dark gothic tone expected of the franchise. The game looks fucking sweet.
Is this one that was on 360 when it first came out?
It was on the original Xbox, I believe.
Oh, I'm thinking of Vampire Reign.
Yeah, no, it's
That was
it's
a terrible game.
It's honestly like maybe this is just headlines.
What's it called? Blood Hunter?
Vampire the Masquerade.
Man, I'm real
Bloodlines.
bad with
Bloodlines
names.
2.
But it really looks like a fucking I don't know, man. It looks like a well-developed RPG, but it's set sort of in modern times with vampires and werewolves. So it looks like it's a game that can compete pretty hardcore with something like Cyberpunk 2077. But it's a completely new setting that we don't see in RPGs all the time. Like, just watching that first trailer, I was like, man, I'm all about this, man.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I feel like that's like a trend that we haven't seen in a long time with just vampires. I feel like that was really big in like mid 2000s. There was a shit ton of vampire games that came out.
well, 2004.
Vampire games.
That's when the first one came out.
Yeah.
I can think of two.
I mean, I can't remember off any like the names
And
off the top of my head.
Blood
I'm not
Rain.
counting Blood Rain. Blood Rain was early 90s into the late
What's
90s.
another vampire game?
Vampire Rain on 360, which was terrible. The original Bloodline.
Maybe that's the bar that like maybe that's the way we should separate this is good vampire games.
Blood Rain
like-
was fine.
But crazy thing about Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline, it has a 9 out of 10 on Steam.
Now in media, I agree with you.
I just
like,
felt like it was
movie-
popular in games too. I don't know.
I'm gonna Google vampire games.
Sure.
I don't.
Kane wasn't there was
So
a
I'm not saying that I like vampires,
Dante.
but I
Vampires
kind of
done well are fucking cool.
But I
man.
kind of like vampires because they're it's a really cool mythos, and like the mythology behind vampires is just super fucking cool.
I'm ready for something that's
I also
not
don't
zombies
consider
anymore.
Castlevania a vampire game.
I mean,
just saying.
I think it's the vampire game. Like, I feel like it's like the baseline
Right.
that
There's
you
just
compare them to.
Vampires were just big for a while.
The Infamous expansion, Infamous 2 expansion.
I don't think expansions count because then you can
Damn
be
it!
like fucking.
I'm
Skyrim.
trying to back you up your fucking thing,
You'd be like Skyrim.
I'm
and
telling you,
you're
man.
100% wrong.
No, it's there in my mind.
well, you look those
Maybe
up.
there was like 3 vampire games. Those are the only games
While you
I
look
played.
those up, Wolfenstein Youngblood is coming to PC, PS4, Xbox, and Switch on July 26th. That's the end of the news.
Neat. Quick saves.
Vampire the Masquerade has
2000.
has an 80 on Metacritic from 61 critics, but from from 758 ratings, it has a 9.0 user score.
Okay, Blood Rain was in 2002.
And that's where the sentence ends.
Yep, that is where the sentence ends.
There's no way.
I mean, Soul Reaver was 2001, but I don't consider that a vampire game.
Oh, Vampire came out last year.
Vampire?
It's the one by.
Yeah, but that's 2018. We're talking early 2000s.
We're looking for vampire
Mid-2000s.
games. I'm sorry that you're being so successful over there
sure.
that my contribution doesn't count.
2018.
No, I said mid 2000s. I'm not talking about then.
I'm really trying to help you, dude.
Vampire the
really
Masquerade,
am.
Blood Rain 2. There was another Vampire the Masquerade in 2000.
Yeah, Vampire Rain was in 2007.
Dark
2007.
Watch. I don't know if that counts.
I don't consider
Buffy the
Dark Watch.
Vampire Slayer, the game.
Hey, there you go.
Nosferatu, the Wrath of Something.
Legacy of Kain.
Again, I don't consider like the freaking Soul Reaver games a fucking vampire game.
A Vampire Story, Vampire
How
Hunter
not?
D.
Because
Sims
it's not
3
like
Late Night,
it's not like the main thing isn't that you're vampires.
Vampire Knight.
That's not like the main thing.
That's how I remember it.
Castlevania, Lords of Shadow, Dark Angel. Blood Omen 2.
Van Helsing was in 2004.
Vampire Rain in 2007.
That's that one I was talking about. 360. It's a terrible game.
Countdown Vampires in 1999.
There you go. That's the one I was thinking of.
Again, I'm not.
Sims 3 Supernatural.
I'm also not really counting Castlevania as a fucking vampire game. I understand there's vampires.
I feel like it's a vampire game.
I know. That's
How is it not a vampire game?
Because-
Literally, you're going to kill Dracula.
Yeah, I know, but
vampire.
I'm considering a vampire game more along the lines of what Vampire the Masquerade is. Like you're playing as a vampire doing these things that vampires do.
In the Kain games, in Legacy of Kain, you literally take people's blood to power you up.
Again, you keep going back to like one game.
There was multiple games in that series, first of all.
I mean, he grew up when all the Twilight games were coming
Yeah, dude,
out. So maybe that's what you're thinking about.
you know what? Okay, fine. That's 3 games in the mid 2000s with vampires.
Look, all I know is I'm
trying to help you here, dude.
I'm tired of zombie
2 Nightlife.
games. Zombie games right now, just zombies. I'm just done with them. There's too many
Are
of
you?
them.
You should have been done with zombies like 5 years ago when video games
And it
were
still
done with
happens.
gonna-
And it's still happening.
I was
No,
gonna say,
it's not.
Have there been a lot of zombies?
No,
in like
there
the past
has
couple
not.
years? Because I feel
State
like there
of Decay.
hasn't.
State of Decay was last year.
State of Decay, Dead Island, the next one.
Dead Island was in
out.
2000 and fucking.
Dead Island 2 is
The
never
new-
coming
Yeah,
out.
Dead Island was also in 2011, maybe 2012,
What's
when
the other
zombie
one?
games were at its height.
The parkour one.
Also, again, like 2013.
No, that was
No.
2015
No, that was
or
a-
16.
no, that was
it
a-
came out when we started the podcast.
But that was a launch for. I thought it was a launch for PS4.
no, it came out
Dying
when-
Light.
Dying Light. I'll look it up, but
2014.
It came
Gotta
out
be.
when
Dying
we were
Light
doing
was
the
like
podcast.
2016 or 17.
No, it wasn't. You were saying it was 2 years
2015.
ago.
15.
Come on, man.
2015.
Wasn't that long.
Jesus Christ. 2 games so far.
You know, maybe I dreamt it.
No, I think it's. There was a time where there was a shit ton of zombie games.
I agree.
I-
The Left 4 Dead era, Xbox 360 era, so many zombie
I
games.
feel like The Last of Us was sort of the end of that, but I also think
those
that
weren't zombies; they were mushroom people.
they are the definition of zombies.
people.
Undead people.
No, they're sentient.
They're not sentient.
Yeah, I thought they were.
No, they're not.
Yeah, because they had like weapons and shit. Zombies can't carry
They don't
weapons.
really use weapons.
I thought they had weapons.
No.
I thought they had like axes.
No,
and
there
shit.
are actual people in that game that use weapons.
No, okay, maybe that's. I'm just not. Remembering right.
I feel like-
I really did not like Last of Us gameplay, so I tried to rush through it as fast as possible.
That isn't to say that there haven't been any more since then, but I feel like that was like sort of the end of the Vampire Russian video games. But I think media in general, since fucking Walking Dead has become
Yeah,
super
I think
popular,
you're getting media and video games.
I
mixed
feel like
together.
it's
Probably.
sort of like taking up the baton from video games and
That's
just over
and that's probably where my memory of like a lot of vampires being big.
100%, dude.
Because mid
Early
2000s,
2000s, Vampire Diaries, Twilight,
Van Helsing,
the Van Helsing shit. Like, yeah,
Underworld.
those are good movies.
They're good.
No, they are not.
Great
Like the
fucking
first two
movies.
are good.
That's what I mean. There's
That's-
more than that.
There's like 17 of those.
no,
bullshit
There's
movies.
not 17.
17 Underworld movies.
There was one that came out.
Also, who doesn't
2
want to see
years ago?
Kate Beckinsale in fucking skin tight black shirt? The gay guy. racist. Out of the straight dudes in this room, who doesn't want to see Kate Beckinsale in skin tight latex?
Underworld Evolution, Underworld Rise of the Lycans, Underworld Awakening, and then in 2016, Underworld Blood Wars.
Blade.
5.
And there's an animated film, Underworld Endless War.
Blades. Those 3 movies are also fucking phenomenal.
Dude, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm
They
just
are
saying
great
vampires
fucking
were
movies.
rampant.
Ryan Reynolds, one of his best
Marvel
roles.
Zombies.
What?
Marvel Zombies is a thing. It's
That's
a comic book
book.
series. It counts as media.
Oh, sure.
There was a poster once.
Sure.
Also, like, Marvel Zombies is one of those things where, like,
Why?
yeah,
Yep.
like someone did I watched a YouTube video where they talked about how like the Marvel Zombies version of Spider-Man is one of the best versions of Spider-Man. And they talk about how because he's a zombie but they're still sentient, so he's like eating people's brains but he feels really bad about it, and so it's like the struggle between Peter Parker becoming a bad guy.
It's like
the
saying-
way he presented it in the video was really cool, but again it suffers that issue that like it's a barometer for a really good nerd thing is when you sit down and talk about it with other nerds, if you can describe it without making it sound lame, it's a good thing. If it sounds stupid when you're describing the things that you liked about it from like a 5-minute video, then it's probably dumb and not good.
Yep.
Yeah, see, I've never heard of it, so I Googled it. It looks pretty lame.
It's like saying iZombie's a good show. Whitney thinks iZombie's great, and I think
feel
it's
like
dumb.
I feel like Whitney is the target demographic.
Oh, sure. Like, oh,
For
she's a
iZombie.
zombie, so she feels bad about eating brains. She doesn't want to eat brains.
yeah, but that's how she solves mysteries.
But there's like a wacky montage every episode
just
where
so
she's like
dumb.
preparing the brains in a new
I
way.
just don't. I don't understand
Like,
why.
I feel guilty about this, but watch me saute these brains. Like
I just
fucking
don't
Gordon
understand
Ramsay.
why zombies just can't be zombies.
I don't know. It's a good question.
You know,
Why are
Robert
we humanizing
Romero
zombies?
never had to fucking evolve the zombie. It just worked. In the early 90s, early to late 90s, all those zombie movies, Day of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, they're just zombies.
I think
Right.
that's what
They
and,
just
they're,
kept-
and they're fucking great.
They
I
just
think
kept
that's-
getting faster.
No, they didn't get fast. DayZ's the one that made them fast.
No, 20. Did you ever see 28 Days Later or 28
those
Weeks
aren't
Later?
zombies. Those are
No, those
no,
are
those
zombies.
are vampires.
No, those are no.
the
you're
one
think-
with Forrest Whitaker.
no.
That's 28 Days of Night.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are vampires.
Yeah, no. 28 Days Later, zombies.
Yes,
It's
no,
British.
you're right. 28
They're
weeks
fast.
28 weeks later is when they got fast.
they're
28
actually not
days,
zombies. They're called the infected.
28 days later, I think they were regular zombies. 28 weeks later, they evolved after the weeks, and they got fast.
And they become Olympic sprinters.
That's I feel like that's one of the, I feel like that's one of the reasons why the zombies in Last of Us work so well, though, is that like
Yeah, they evolved. They were different types.
No. I mean, on the from a baseline performance, like how they interact with the world, they're kind of just a basic Romero zombie, just faster. But they're
Of which one?
a Romero zombie. But
No,
you
you're
have,
saying what are you talking about?
about
Not
Last of Us.
Last of Us.
yeah. What
I
did
thought you
say?
said Left 4 Dead.
No.
I was like, Left 4 Dead had
Maybe
a
I
bunch
said
of
Left 4 Dead. I meant
Left
Last of
4
Us.
Dead had a bunch of weird shit.
No, you said Last of Us.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I heard Left 4 Dead. Sorry.
But the Last of Us zombies are like from a baseline level, they work just like any other zombie, but they also have like that alien aspect to them because of the whole fungus bullshit
Sure,
that like
yeah,
make
yeah.
them extra creepy.
Yeah.
Also, like an unexplained disease, I feel like is less scary than like fungus invading our brains and turning us into zombies. I
You
don't
know
know.
what bothers me? Before we end this, you know what really bothers me is when you
Do we have time for this?
Sure. is when you introduce some sort of plague and you don't explain it.
Walking Dead. You were talking about Walking Dead. Just talk about Walking Dead.
Am I talking about Walking Dead?
I mean, that's basically Walking
See,
Dead.
I don't know.
Zombies.
I've only watched
That's
like the
true.
first 4 seasons of it,
that
maybe
was-
5 or 6.
That was like Robert Kirkman's whole pitch for Walking Dead was that like the zombie thing happens and we never explain.
yeah, that bothers the shit out of me. The Sandra Bullock Netflix movie.
There's no zombie. That's not really a zombie thing.
No,
Sandra
but
Bullock
my
Netflix?
point
Bird
is,
Box.
yeah, but my point
Oh,
is they
gotcha.
introduce this thing and it's never explained. Bothers the absolute shit out of me. You don't have to explain you don't have to explain how they're made. You don't have to explain you don't have to go into detail about these things, but at least explain to
I
me
think-
with a freaking word wall at the end of the movie about what the fuck is happening or
I
something.
think 90% of the time I agree with
bothers
you.
the shit out of me.
I think 90% of the time I agree with you. I actually didn't feel that way about Bird Box. I thought that Bird Box was because I think Bird Box is one of those movies that like you're like, oh, there's this thing happening and everyone dies and they're just killing themselves and blah blah. They're like that's a thing. But really, like the way that you should describe that movie is it's a movie about a woman trying to survive with children that she hates.
Sure.
And she has to learn to love them.
Sure, but they introduce this really cool idea of this and this force that you learn nothing about.
I feel
and
like
it bothers the shit out of me.
I feel like it works though because I can't imagine a way of describing that that's satisfying.
Yeah, that's my thing. Anytime a movie,
Then give me a second movie.
Anytime a movie describes like the force behind this thing or like how this outbreak comes about, it's usually like very unremarkable.
So
Like,
so,
it's like look at like Freddy Krueger, right? Freddy Krueger or Jason. They work when you don't try to describe why they exist.
yeah, but they're not so far out of reach that you can't figure it out yourself. That's the difference there. Jason and Freddy, maybe Freddy with an exception, but you can figure it out just by
Yeah,
watching a movie,
but
what they are, where they come from, and
But
how
I feel
they
like
work.
it was a really popular thing after they were first released, where everyone was like, "I want to know everything about these characters. Where did they come from? What's their origin
Sure,
story?"
yeah.
It's like the Joker too. The Joker is another perfect example of that. The Joker is one of those things that works because you can't describe him.
Sure.
And I feel like that amount of things only work in really horror aspects.
Sure,
right?
but yeah,
and they have to
like-
be really, really good.
Yeah, but like with the Joker, there's so much content to ingest. That's my pushback. So much content to ingest that I almost don't need to know more about it because I'm good because you keep giving me content with it. So like I was gonna say, Cloverfield is a really great example.
That's
of this for
another
me.
good example, one where you don't describe it.
Right, but like the rest of the movies do, and I was so fucking.
The Paradox one does.
I was
Not really. It
so
doesn't describe the monster.
It 100% does.
I mean, it says like it came from a different.
I think it describes
universe.
why
And- but that-
Cloverfield Lane
dimension.
And I think it describes why Cloverfield Lane and the Cloverfield first movie are able to exist with the Cloverfield name on
But
it.
no, but the thing is like Cloverfield, just the first one, you have this, you get to see somewhat what the monster looks like, and it
Big
ends.
monster.
Yeah, and I loved Cloverfield. I thought Cloverfield was a fucking great movie.
It's a great movie.
I thought Cloverfield Lane was meh, but then when
Cloverfield Lane is one of my favorites.
but then when Paradox came out, was it just called Paradox?
Cloverfield
Cloverfield.
Paradox.
Cloverfield Paradox. When Paradox came out, I wasn't expecting a ton because I think you might have said it was the Cloverfield universe. But like all I needed to know was that monster came from a different dimension and those astronauts were the cause of it. And I'm good. Like I always thought that about the original Cloverfield. It's like all I need to know is where the what is the cause of this. I don't need to know like how the monster shits. I don't need to know if it can reproduce.
So
I don't need to know any of that. I just want to know somewhat of a thing of like how did this happen? Macro view of it. And Paradox totally did that.
But the thing about Paradox that's cool is that it's not. It explains, like, I think the coolest thing about it is that what happens in that movie. I mean, Cloverfield Paradox has issues. It's not a perfect movie.
For sure.
But the things that those astronauts do on that space station in that movie, it has like these far-reaching effects through the multiverse, which is why the Cloverfield Lane is fucked up and Cloverfield is fucked up, and this new universe you're in is fucked
there's
up.
Another one.
That universe that they're in that movie that takes place like 15 years
after
whatever. The other one.
Sure,
so
but
it's cool because it's like these are all different universes.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not breaking. I don't want to break down. I'm just saying.
No.
Like I had the same problem with Cloverfield. I just need to know where the fuck it came from. And they expounded on that with Paradox. And it's like, now I know where it came from. And I'm 100% satisfied. If they made a second Bird Box that dealt with maybe somebody scientifically looking at what this force is and having some kind of explanation, 100% satisfied. I don't need to know how it happened, where they came from, what they look like, what they shit. I don't need to know any of that. I just need to know a macro view of this is what we think it could be.
Well, they kind of do that in that movie, though. They all are sort of like this is like a.
I mean,
well, but they all like the. Here's the thing about like movies that maybe this makes me a bad movie viewer, or maybe this makes me the ideal audience. This is like we talked a while ago on the podcast how like I'm not a big fan of like big fan theories unless you can back them up with a shit ton of evidence. Like I used to get like shut down during conversations when we would talk about like what could Star Wars Episode 7 be or this. Like I just don't. I know that whatever I predict is either going to be cooler or lamer than what actually exists, and it's not going to happen. So I have the tendency that when a movie plays and you tell me something, I believe it until I'm given a reason not to believe it.
You take it at face value.
In my mind, they explain it in Bird Box, and it's a force of religion. It's a force of like some deity or devil or demon, because that's the belief that everyone has.
When the fuck did they say that?
There's a whole conversation with that one fucking crazy black dude that's like, I've done research about this, and this is the devil.
Yeah,
There's a couple of deities that he throws
and
out,
other people talk about like their religious side of that.
I totally remember that scene, but they as filmmakers played off that scene as the crazy dude talking, which a lot of times the crazy dude is the right guy, but that's still not a that's not a macro explanation.
My point being that like if you're a filmmaker, you're not going to put something in your movie that you don't want the audience to believe, and sometimes you can play with that expectation, right?
Yeah, of course.
Like you could totally make a Bird Box 2 where it has nothing to do with
I'm not trying to analyze what the filmmakers are trying to do. I'm just saying, like, I like, as a viewer, to have some sort of, like, if Pacific Rim came out and they never even mentioned once where the kaiju came from or where they think they might have come from, I would have been fucking pissed. Well, just give me an idea.
I think, like I said, in 90% of the cases, I agree with you. If you're going to present something, you should know where it came from. I think just my one exception is usually horror. Like for me, horror, a lot of times I'm like, the more you describe it, the less cool it gets.
Yeah, I guess.
Most of the time.
I come from I guess a different horror. Like if you never told me where the ghost from The Ring came from, or The Grudge, or Insidious, all those things. If you didn't give me some sort of background, those would have been insanely worse movies.
Well, I think The Ring is specifically made with that.
Sure, yeah.
You know her origin story by the end of the first movie, and that's a plot point.
Yeah.
Us is a good example of a movie that needed that explanation, though, too.
Well, that's because
not spoiling anything.
To be fair with us, as we talked about in the pre-show of the podcast, if it exists,
would I like Us?
Here, I think you'd be fine with it.
Okay.
I don't think you would.
Would
be
I enjoy it?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
love horror.
It's a movie. I don't think
horror.
It's a movie.
No, horror and thriller, like right up my alley.
It's a movie that has like horror element. I think you'd be fine with it.
I'll wait till it comes on Netflix.
But anyway, the thing about Us is that Us needed to have exposition at the end because it was not remarkable until the end of the movie.
Correct.
That movie is completely unremarkable until the last 40 minutes, and 40 minutes of exposition saved that movie.
True. But the exhibition was really good.
It was good. I'm not saying it's not good. Yeah. But the reason why that movie needed that exposition is because what the fuck else is the rest of that movie? With the beginning of that movie, we have seen it 100,000 times, and other people have done it better.
It's very true. It's very true.
Anyways, we need to end this so I can go get some beer.
Oh, okay.
If you guys like what we do, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on all of your favorite
I was
podcasting
about to unplug
platforms.
this microphone. I was like, we're done.
done. Boop.
You can follow us on Twitter at Twinstick Radio or on Facebook at facebook.com/Twinstick Radio. We are on Twitter as well. I am at Darth Trey. Chris is at Short Change Hero with a 3 instead of the E in Hero. And Justin is at Justin T. Lopez. The show is edited and produced by Everett Jordan. And our theme song is by Connor Manning. Follow him on Twitter at Connor13, one N and Connor, 13 spelled out. And hire him to do your theme song for your podcast at downstreamstudios.com.
Please follow us. I need somebody to play Division with. It's getting lonely out there.
Goodbye.